Hey friends, welcome to Lotus in the Light. My name's Jennifer. Thanks for joining. As we jump in today, I'm just going to invite you to take a few deep breaths, center yourself, set the intention with Spirit, with God to be an open conduit to receive God's message, however they choose to speak to you, so that um, you're ready and willing and you're a sponge and ready to soak it up. I'm going to share with you what Spirit is sharing with me, and you can take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And that's why that open connection to Spirit is so important, so that it's a three-way communication system. And what you need to hear and get from this is what you're going to get from it, regardless of what words are coming out of my mouth. So I thought, I didn't think. Spirit put it right in my head. I was driving home from the grocery store. I ran to the grocery store tonight, which I don't usually do. My husband usually does the grocery shopping around here, so I ran to grab a couple things on my way home. Um, it just popped in my head that I needed to talk about unconditional love. And so I'm going to thank Spirit for that prompting. And specifically, I was prompted to talk about the Jesus's parable about the prodigal son. So I thought I would just start with the question for everybody. What do you believe is unconditional love? Think about that for a second. What words come to mind? I mean, it's hard to think about unconditional love without just thinking about the term love, but what does that encompass, unconditional love? A lot of people might say non-judgment. Um, that's what comes to mind for me, is like a non-judging love. Like it doesn't matter what you do or say or what you've done. The love, the love is there always and forever, which I think is interesting because I think from a Christian perspective, there is this understanding that God is unconditional love, but then uh, as a juxtaposition to that, there's this idea that God is our ultimate judge, that God will judge and punish, that there is an eternal reward and an eternal consequence for our choices here in this life that are based on our behaviors in this life. And one of those options is good and pleasing and joyful and loving and with God. And one is separate and horrible and terrible and like the worst possible scenario. But I want to challenge you in that thought. And this might feel uncomfortable depending on, what your faith system has been. And you know what? If it is, again, don't watch the video. That you are not hurting my feelings. I am not for everyone. In fact, your belief systems are your belief systems because that truth for you is what you need in this time. And I say that to myself as well. What I believe right now is what I believe because it's what I need in this time, what I understand in this time. And I can assure you, I do not know the whole truth, um, the whole divine truth, because I'm not ready and capable of even understanding that yet. And I would say neither are you. So hold to the truth that you feel that feels right for you. That's okay. But if you're still listening to me, I would guess that maybe that narrative that I was just talking about isn't holding as much truth for you anymore. And you're trying to understand, what else could this mean? What else? I believe in the Bible. I believe in these words. What else could this, what am I missing? And so I would just challenge this idea that God sends us here to this earth, or from the Christian narrative, it would be you didn't exist before and then you were born into this earthly life. I just, even scientifically, can't believe that, because energy isn't born, energy doesn't die. It is, it always was, it always is. So I do have a different perspective about now. I came from that Christian background about where I came from before I was here. And so I do believe that my soul was part of my decision to come into this life and have these experiences, and my soul was a decision maker in that. But regardless, even if that doesn't align with your truth, that's fine. So if you were born into this world, a brand new baby soul, into this brand new baby body, and you're journeying along in life, the idea that the Christian faith has really staked its claim to is that if you don't figure out the path to truth before you die, you go to hell. And so I just think about, as a parent, the closest thing that we will ever, I think, the closest thing we will ever know to unconditional love is the love we have for our children. So think of that as a parent giving birth to a child and saying, okay, go figure this out. And if I'm going to blindfold you even, right? Like, I'm going to make it hard for you to hear from me. I'm going to make that difficult. Maybe it doesn't have to be difficult, but maybe you make it difficult, whatever, right? Um, and then you go figure this thing out. And if you don't figure out how to find your way back to me, you can never come back to me. We're done forever. You can suffer forever. Does that make sense? Is that something you would do to your child? And if not, then how do we cling to this narrative with the understanding that God is pure, unconditional love? How can we equate that this unconditional love would do this to me? It doesn't equate. The math does not work. Um, and so that's a challenge. But I'm going to talk through the story of the prodigal son just because, because Spirit told me to. That's why. But for whatever reason, I honestly, right before I flipped on this video to record, I even had to go back and reread it because I haven't even read that parable in a long, long time. And I'm like, let me just refresh. Like, what are some of the things that it's saying in here? Some of the themes. And so um, the one thing I do want to say is the story starts off talking about two sons, if you remember, the younger son and the older son. But I also want to bring back, a lot of times I talk about what these words, what the root words are in these scriptures. Like I'll talk about the root Hebrew for the Old Testament words, the root Greek for the New Testament words. But I often gloss over the fact that Jesus spoke in Aramaic, not in Greek. So his Aramaic words were then translated to Greek in the New Testament. So really, when we're talking about Jesus's own words, we should be going back to the Aramaic. And so if you go back to his spoken language with that parable of the two sons, the word sons translates into something much, much deeper than just a child or a product of. It translates into the embodiment of, the expression of, the um, uh, the reflection of, okay? So it's more than just a byproduct, like, I've reproduced this thing that's still an independent thing. It's a true reflection and embodiment of. Um, so this father has two embodiments, reflections, expressions of himself, right? One is younger, one is older. One wants to leave, and he says, give me what's mine. Give me my inheritance. Go back to the Aramaic on the inheritance, and we're talking about give me what flows, what is supposed to flow to me, what is mine to have. So basically what he's asking there in that request is allow me to separate and figure out who and what I am independent of you. Okay. He's asking that kind of permission to go off and, give me what's mine. Let me go off and figure out and figure out this thing that I am. Um, but we are all made of the divine. So when we cut ourselves off from spirit, because you can never really separate, right? In terms of like, God is never not with us because we are literally made of the energy and essence of God. God is us, right? Um, and but we can, I say it all the time, we can like a hose, what like you pinch off the hose, you can pinch off the connection if you choose. And that's essentially what that son's doing, is saying, I'm going to pinch this off. I'm going to go off on my own way and disconnect and figure out, see what this life thing is without God. And in fact, you could argue that that's what the whole human experience is our souls choosing to go off and have this experience just to see, what does this mean? What is this like? Um, and so, but when the prodigal son comes home, uh, he thinks he's not worthy. He actually says in the text that, like, I'm going to go back and ask my father, like, I've squandered everything. I'm starving. I'm hungry. I'm lower than the low. And even my father's workers or slaves or whatever they were back then, even they get fed better than the pigs. And I'm not even getting that now. And so I'm just going to go home and beg my father for forgiveness and tell him I'm not worthy, but please forgive me. I'll do whatever it takes, the bootstraps mentality, right? Pull myself up by my bootstraps or whatever. But that's not what he comes home to. He comes home to love and joy and celebration and killing of the fatted calf. And like, guess what? He's back. He's alive. So, and this is what the father is saying. The father's saying he was dead. He was asleep to his consciousness, to who he really was. He pinched off the circulation to the consciousness. Okay. Now he's alive. And that life is a remembrance. It's an awakening. He now remembers who he is and he's coming home. It's an awakening, but it's an internal awakening is what it is. And we know this because the second son is the older son says, he gets mad about it. He's like, hey, man, I've been around here. I've been doing all the right things, checking all the boxes. I've been loyal, and I've never had a fattened calf killed for me in this kind of celebration. And what gives, right? Um, and this is where we have to remember that uh, as we come here and we have this life experience, we're not all of us, but definitely those of us that identify as Christians or identify as identify with some religion or some spirituality. We're all that identify that way on some kind of journey to try to connect with or reconnect with a God source, right? So we're seeking that connection and we think we're doing the right things according to our belief systems to be in that connection, right? And so that's what he's saying, like, I'm doing all the right things. Why does he get celebrated and I don't? But what that's doing is it's demonstrating that he is actually pretty disconnected. So he's physically near his father. He never left his father's side. And we do that same thing. It's like we're physically near, we get involved in our church and involved in our church community and involved in service and involved in these what we think are physical manifestations of what God would want us to be doing. We take on those things, but what we're not doing is we are not being energetically near God. We are not being emotionally near God. I shouldn't say we're not, but that's often the missing link is what I'm trying to say. I'm not judging whether you are connected with God or not. That is not for me to judge. But so what we're seeing here is that even the faithful son or brother to the other son, even he is not energetically connected. He is not spiritually connected to his father. He was missing. He was missing and misinterpreting who he was as well. just like the other son felt unworthy. He felt unworthy because he had lost connection with who he really is. He's divine. He is divine energy. He's made of God, and he had, because of that disconnection, had forgotten, and now he's come back to it and recognizes and understands. The other son never physically left, but he too had forgotten and had also had a disconnection there that needed to be reconnected. And that's where the father said, this was always all yours. So that's another challenge to us, that like, you know, this is yours to manifest. This is yours. This is your playground. This earth, this life, this is our playground to do with what we want. But how do we do it in a way that keeps us connected to who we are? And to do that is to stay connected and stay in alignment with divine source. And we do that here. We do that in our heart space. We do that by opening and exploring what we believe, what we feel, moving out of our head space about what we think is right, what we think we know, what we think we should be doing, and getting down here and connecting with God and spirit in here, in this place. This is the meeting place. This is the upper room. Or maybe our third eye is the upper room, our crown chakra is the upper room. But anyway, I don't know how we would literally translate that. I'm sure somebody's got a theory on it, but hey, let's just close. I've probably been rambling for a while, but I just want to bring it back to this idea that wrestle with that. If you're still watching this, you're already wrestling with what is this punishment thing about? And I would just challenge you to say that I do think hell is real, in the sense of we create our own reality here on earth. We manifest our own life, everything we're experiencing here on earth, based on what we believe and our energetic vibration, because our energetic vibration is determined by what we believe about ourselves and about God and about the world and about our connected or disconnectedness. I mean, that's another component, is we are connected to everyone, but we miss that when we cut God off, because when we cut off the connection to God here, we also cut off our connection to everyone else. But it just like God drops the hints and the reminders that, hey, I'm here and we're connected. We have those same little hints about our connection to other people. Like when you think of somebody you haven't thought of in a while, and then all of a sudden they call you. It's because your energies, the moment you thought of them, your energies, your intertwined energies re-engaged, it re-sparked. You sent I'll use the word telepathic communication to that person. So then they thought of you too. Okay. This is 10 of grains. I forget this darn biblical tarot. I can't remember what grains are. Grains? Okay, so grains are like pentacles. Okay. So the grains are the material aspects, career, money, physical world. It's the earth element. It's the things that make us human, right? All the physical form of things. 10 of grains. And so a 10, I mean, that's the start of not something new. So the start of building something new in this life. And again, that plays off of our belief systems. So this might be why you're being asked and challenged to consider what it is that you believe and try to reconcile those things that just aren't making sense here, and working through that. So Genesis 13:15, this is God's promise to Abraham. All the land that you see, I will give you and your offspring forever. Now, it doesn't say you and the faithful son or you and the prodigal son. It's you and your offspring, not the ones that did what I said should be done, not the ones that checked this box or went to church every Sunday or went to synagogue every whatever night. It's Saturday. Is that when they go to synagogue? You know what I'm saying? Like, not the ones that saved themselves for marriage, not the ones that never did drugs, not the ones that didn't gamble. That's not what it says. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever. The only reason why you wouldn't be able to partake in this is because you believe you can't. if you have deemed yourself unworthy, which is what the prodigal son did, he's slaving, feeding pigs, and he's not even getting the food that's as good as what the pigs were getting. That's what he had allowed himself to go into before he remembered who he was. And he said, well, I'm just going to go back and ask for forgiveness. But the father, the father didn't have to forgive him because the father wasn't judging him. He was judging him. Release that. Forgive yourself for whatever you think you've done. Let that go and come into the royalties that you deserve because you are made of divine source. Live this life as though you are worth having everything. There's enough for everyone. I promise you. There's enough money for everyone. There's enough food for everyone. There's enough love for everyone. That's what unconditional love is that is, you know, we are divine creations of God. We are his love in manifest. We are the manifestation of his love. And that doesn't change no matter what you do here. Everything you do here is just for your learning and for your own experience, and for the experience and learning and expansion of the broader universal spiritual world. Let's do one more in closing because I just want to remind you, there was a thought that um, that was coming to me and then I lost it. So I'm just going to assume if I'm supposed to tell you, it will come back to me. But it had to do with the unconditional love. Where do we want to close this? Yeah, I think we want to close right here. The sacred sea. Sacred sea. Let's see what the sacred sea has to say. Okay. You're divinely loved. That's what I want to say. You're divinely loved forever, no matter what you do, no matter what you've ever done. You are loved. And oh, I know. I don't think I finished my thought on hell is real. Oh my gosh, I was left you hanging there. Yes, because just like we manifest in this life, according to what we believe, you manifest in the next life according to what you believe. So I don't believe there's an eternity in hell for you, but if you believe that's what you deserve, you will create that for your soul after you leave here. That's what, not because God put you there, not because you deserve it, but because you've decided that you deserve it. And you will create that reality for yourself until you heal enough to see the light, to feel God's tug. Which is also why it's important to, when your loved ones pass on, if you think that they are uncertain or don't know to go to the light, or maybe you fear that they don't feel worthy to go to the light, pray for them to go to the light. Just tell them to go. It's safe to go. And that way they'll open their eyes to it. So again, I come back to, the prodigal son was a remembrance, an awakening. His eyes were opened. The blind will see. And so whether it happens in this life or whether it happens when we leave from here, move on from here in soul form, like, yeah, we do not have to spend an eternity anywhere, honestly. Sacred serpent spirit, DNA activation. This is interesting because, especially with this crowd, because I know that if you're watching this, you're probably of a Christian background, and there's a very negative connotation with the idea of serpents, which is very misunderstood, but that's, yeah. Okay, sacred serpent spirit. This is a 9, 36, it breaks down to a 9. 36, though, that's a lot of threes. Sorry. 34, 35. Almost at the end of this book. Oh boy, this is so tiny. Am I going to be able to read this? Oh, I think this is the last card. This must be a 36 card deck. It's a newer one. I'm not really familiar with it. It's it says this is the affirmation for this card. I just love when spirit. I just read the first few words. This is a DNA activation. It says, I allow only that which is of divine love and light and my higher self to activate my DNA to the highest frequency possible. That's Christ consciousness is what that is. For my to the highest frequency possible for my consciousness in this moment, allowing for the highest good of myself and those all around me to benefit from this activation in the most healthy, vibrant, and positive way. That's lovely. DNA activation, Kundalini activation, support, trusting you have what you need, nothing more, nothing less, consciousness activation, evolutionary growth from deep within. These are the sacred meanings. I should have said that first. Sorry, because it wasn't sentences. Okay, so here's the message. When Sacred Serpent of DNA activation is the code keeper. Oh, sorry. The sacred serpent of DNA activation is the code keeper of your DNA, the protector of your consciousness. This is what we're talking about. The sacred serpent knows you and your life's purpose and mission upon Earth, which is why your DNA has a code keeper. You can melt sweetly into the comfort of this being's care, as it is a fierce protector and will only allow you to access the parts of your DNA that are most important for you in each moment. Practice trusting a multidimensional being that has your highest good as its sole priority and gives you nuggets of wisdom, healing, and activations as you become ready for them. These are like God's helpers, right? Like angels, essentially, is what they're describing, right? Sometimes DNA activates, boy, I'm struggling tonight. Sometimes DNA activations or Kundalini activations can occur in very intense bursts of high frequency medicine. But this is granted to you with your intentions. You have more authority over your life than you may realize, and you can have any kind of awakening experience you would like to have. And then there's a C ritual that's just talking about take a moment to ground your energy. I'm not going to read all of that. I'm just going to call back here. This card was so perfect because it's just talking about how you are divine love and you're divinely loved. And there's more for you if you want to allow it. And there's spirit energy on the other side that wants to guide you in this journey if you will open yourself up to them and allow them, your angels, guardian angels, spirit guides. And I just like this last sentence. I'm going to repeat it one more time. You have more authority over your life than you may realize, and you can have any kind of awakening experience you would like to have. The prodigal son had an awakening experience. He had to have one in a little bit more of a uncomfortable way than most of us would prefer. But that's what happens when we make those not so great choices in life that we think we're being judged for. It's not about the judgment. It just means the learning is going to be a little bit more painful for us. That's all. Okay, that's it. I'm going to leave it right there. I love you all. I hope you have a wonderful day or night. Peace out.